All right, folks, from the shores of the Great Slave Lake, right here in scenic, frigid, and frosty Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, Canada, straight into your living room, your vehicle, whatever you happen to be at. This is Jack Antonio for Do You Know Jack Radio Show, and I'm very proud and pleased to introduce my next guest, one of my all-time favorite guitar players, Kurt Bachman of Believer, on the line after 4 years.
I know. How you doing, Jack?
I'm good now. Now, listen, I know there's a very good reason for the band's hiatus, and like I said, we talked back in April of 2013, and things seem to be going along swimmingly. So, you know, what's going on with the holdup in terms of new material?
Yeah. So, I think the biggest thing for us was what was released on our Facebook page about Jeff, and he had pretty severe health problems, and it's like ulcerative colitis, and pretty much his body was just attacking his intestinal tract, so to speak, and he had some major surgeries. Got through that. He was pretty much like at death's door almost, man, but he got through it, and he's healthy now, and we were like, okay, let's get back to this, and so, of course, like, the typical family stuff, all of that stuff's still going on and everything, but it was time. It was time to finish the writing. We wrote a lot before, and we had parts and pieces here and there, and then it was, okay, let's get this together. Let's start releasing material. And it just so happens that 2017 it's been 30 years since we put out our first public demo, actually.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's kind of our 30th anniversary.
Wow, I hadn't even thought of that. It's been that long, eh?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So, so we're gonna have fun this year, man. With putting some stuff out, and we're excited about it.
No kidding. Well, now I know you guys, you worked hard at sort of rebuilding the brand in the last 10 years or so, and I guess the operative question would be, in 2017, how viable is the brand and the fan base at this point? Like, are you gonna literally have to go back and start from scratch, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's fans out there that have kind of been with us from the very beginning.
Like me.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like me.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. So they're still out there. I mean, and we get contacted all the time and stuff, and everybody wants to hear new tunes and see what we're going to do next. And they're used to us evolving and kind of pushing ourselves in the envelopes and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think there's new fans too. It's really interesting. Like, as we started putting out, when we put out Transhuman, and it's kind of a slightly different album as we like to do, and people kind of gravitated to that. I think the fans that have always been there expected something different.
Yeah,
you always have we always have our fans that are like, oh, are you going to do a Sanity Obscura 2 or a Dimensions 2, and it's like, I don't think we're ever going to do that. That's just not us. But yeah, so the it's a little bit more building of the brand. It's kind of been like that for us almost every album. I think there is something to say, like, if you have a good formula, stick to it, because you keep your fan base and you build it. And obviously we're horrible at that. So, yes, everything we put out, it's kind of a new day, so to speak.
Well, now I'm thinking, like, with Transhuman again coming out in 2011, like, maybe the whole digital marketing format was just starting to come to the fore. So, I mean, there again, with putting out new material, you're going to have to get used to that.
Exactly. And so it's pretty amazing, actually. Like, when we first started, we didn't have the internet. I mean, that just sounds weird to say, but, and just the way everything's marketed now is just so different. There's so much more access and for people in general. I mean, and to reach people and things like that. I mean, yeah, you get into this kind of state of, okay, how hard is it going to be to find us? How hard is it going to be to reach new people? But but we're getting a lot of input as we have all along through, you know, a lot of our friends who are still in the industry from the record label standpoint and the marketing and things like that. And we've just made great friends. I mean, whether it's from Metal Blade or some of the guys that were at Roadrunner, and you know, and we always reach out to them. They are always excited when we're putting something new out, and you know, and they kind of help us along the way. So it's great, actually.
I'm trying to recall now. Is Borovoy sort of another guy that's in your camp from Blabbermouth?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, we were just emailing back and forth about some of the new stuff, and yeah, he's pretty excited too, which is really cool. He's in California now. He used to be in New York, a little bit closer to me, but he's in California, and yeah, he seems to be really enjoying himself and kicking ass with Blabbermouth, and you know, so he's definitely in our camp. He's a great guy.
Well, it's amazing now what happens with that site, right? Because, I mean, if they post one thing, then like the 2 or 3 other really big sort of, you know, triumvirate of heavy metal news sites will climb on board 9 times.
Exactly. So we'll be getting some stuff up on Blabbermouth shortly.
That's good.
And but then it's also, you know, so contacting a lot of the other people that have kind of been there with us throughout the years. Some of the newbies, like, you know, Metal Sucks, and then, but also like Decibel and, you know, some of these other zines, which is really cool.
Yeah. Loudwire, that's another one.
Metal exactly.
Injection.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you though now, you know, you've sort of decided to release a couple of new tracks at a time, with perhaps the first 2 dropping March 18th. Is that like a in-stone release date, or what's going on?
Yeah, so you get the exclusive, man. So what we decided to do, since this was kind of a special year for us, is rather than kind of just do the typical format, what we're going to do is we're going to drop a couple tunes at a time throughout the year, and then culminating in more of a physical product at the end of the year. That'll be something special, which will be really cool. So we plan to have fun with this throughout the entire year, something we've never done before. You know, we always just put out a record and that was it.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, some cool marketing ideas that we have to move forward with. A lot of fun with the art, you know, and things like that. So I think we're pretty excited about that, and it's something new for us, which will be really cool. I mean, of course, we couldn't do this before, and now we can. Is
there a working title for this record yet, or is that still on the QT?
So yeah, that's there is, but you know, for the whole one, we're still working on that. But this first one that's coming out, it's called 105.
Okay.
So you know, the first couple tunes to drop, and that's what I mean. You'll see, and people will see how we're doing this with the kind of the art, and also going along with the music.
So, are you implying that this is sort of concept related as well?
It could be.
You never know.
Maybe.
Well, now let's talk about these tunes. You've got 2. Am I allowed to say the names of the songs now that you've
Sure,
sent?
absolutely.
Okay, so you've got one called Home, and you've got another called 888.
Yes.
These are the tracks now that are set to drop March 18th, and I have to admit, Kurt, I was pretty surprised because these tracks seem a little less progressive and a little bit more melodic, in particular with your vocals, and the riffs maybe seem a little bit more, you know, I'm thinking of that kind of active rock sound almost, you know, like, is that just sort of what came out in your writing sessions?
So it was pretty interesting. I mean, when we were writing this stuff, and when I would sit down to write riffs, and you know, and Jeff and I and Joey Kev got together, it was kind of an interesting process, because we did go into this saying, okay, you know, we always do something new, but let's really, you know, try to step outside of our comfort zone quite a bit, and that was really weird for us, because I would go back and listen to demos of these songs, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, who wrote this? Like it didn't feel like me writing it, you know, in the beginning. And then and then it really grew on us. And it's funny because, people always talk about our roots and being like, our roots are Creator and Destruction, things like that. But in all honesty, our roots are like, Rush and Yes and Kansas and some of these other bands. And we never really tried to push ourselves into that, let's do songwriting. I think we did a little bit of that on Transhuman, but it was like, what's going to fit in the tune? Do we need more bass? What are the sounds going to sound like? What are the riffs? Now, again, I mean, these are the first couple that are dropping. So some of the other ones, will be a surprise also, I think. But for these first two, Home and 888, we said, let's put these out. I mean, we could have held on to these, maybe put some different ones out, but it was like, let's just go for it. And we either, it's going to be kind of like what we heard from Transhuman. I think, some people will first listen to it and they'll be like, oh my God, what did these guys do? Or, who are these people? And, but then, hopefully after like several listens and things like that, people will kind of grasp it. I mean, I think you still hear us in there, and I think you still hear our sound and some of our writing.
Yeah, like I'm thinking just about the whole general evolution of the band now. I mean, your first record, you kind of sound a little bit like, Baby Jesus Metallica kind of thing going on.
I know. Yeah, I mean, they were a huge influence on us, in that kind of heavy and thrash scene, and in the beginning, and we, so it was pretty straightforward, kind of heavy and thrashy, and then Sanity was a little bit more techy.
Well, that's when you kind of switched up the vocals a little bit too, to the sort of more, generally accepted timbre of your vocals. I mean, there's a certain Kurt Bachman way of snarling out the lyrics, and that's really what came out with Sanity. And I think that's when you got the Roadrunner Records attention there too, because I think you put it out on a small sort of more faith-based label, and then Roadrunner reissued. I'm just trying to think through my Believer history now.
No, you're absolutely right, and so Sanity, Sanity was that record, and I think we were starting to get into the more technical aspect of things there, and we did put the U2 song on that record, and so which kind of was different for us, and I think different for a lot of people, and then Diaz Area, of course, and so and then Dimensions was a whole other thing, right? And I think it was one of those things where as we kind of grow and think about music and stuff like that, it's really not one of those things where, look, we want to do this to be like huge rock stars and things like that. And that's why I think, it was never in the cards for us, because we always wanted to do something different. I mean, even with the strings thing, I can remember doing that. I mean, Scott, he was my high school strings teacher.
That's right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we were like, oh, let's do something weird, with like real strings and heavy stuff. And so we've kind of always wanted to do something unique. And in this one, like I said, the new stuff, this time it was, let's just make ourselves really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, now your vocal approach, I know I brought this up a few times already, but I mean, like you're sounding, really on point here. I mean, this is, because you mentioned the U2 cover where the vocals, I mean, let's be honest here, Kurt, like the vocals maybe needed some polishing there, but I mean, here, like, have you been like doing vocal exercises, warm-ups, vocal coaching, like what's going on? How'd the sound come out like that? So no formal coaching or anything like that. I mean, it's just really, it was one of those things. I remember when, what was it? The Black album came out. I remember James talking about, the producer, basically pushing him, saying, do something different, just let yourself go. And this time it was really interesting. We actually set up the vocal booth in my house. Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay, look, I'm going to try stuff. Let's just try a bunch of things. I'm going to do some stuff maybe that, again, we're going to feel really uncomfortable about. And And so, but I was really kind of, pushing my voice, trying new things. I did some of this on Transhuman, but it was, it was, several takes, obviously, to like kind of get myself to be in that pocket. And, again, I mean, I think, we're all sitting there, like I would do a verse and everybody was sitting there just quiet, right? It was like, okay, what are we doing? What is this? Yeah. But then it was like, again, it was after a few times, it was like, okay, this is what it was needed for the songs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think it was really more about that. It was, I had these vocal ideas and things even from the inception, as soon as I wrote the riffs and things. And so it, they've been in my mind like the whole time.
Yeah. How does Joey feel about this sort of new direction that you have on these tracks?
Oh, he loves it. It was really weird for him, and he struggled even on Transhuman a little bit with saying, we were all like, we were also worried about filling space. Yeah. Especially Joey. I kind of, in Transhuman, you could hear like from a guitar type of situation. I wasn't ultra I kind of held back a little bit with filling the space, right? And that harkens back to like Rush and some of these bands that are just, I mean, again, I'm not comparing ourselves to these bands by any means, but they're amazing players and they can play circles around people, but for the song, they kind of, well, here's what the song needs, and I think that's what we've learned to appreciate over the years, and even with a little bit with Transhuman, and now it's really about what does the song need and how can we build the song around like these skeleton parts. Yeah. And I mean, because even Home, I mean, Jeff said something to me the other day. He was like, Kurt, he said, when we first wrote Home, he goes, maybe this will be like my second least favorite tune. He's like, this is like my favorite song. And so, but I think, we may be saying that along the way too. And it's kind of, it's refreshing actually to be able to do that and kind of build things around. And,
Jeff's keyboard work is really up front on these new tracks too.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the other things. It was, and some of it's strange and some of it's, like he would play something and I'd say, well, do this. And he'd be like, what? He goes, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, you got to do this. And again, we were kind of going for these pictures we had in our head of the imagery of like how we always kind of like make a backstory for each song and stuff like that. And of course we never talk about it because it's kind of, we want people to make their own stories and stuff. But it was, this time it was more like, yeah, we're like watching a movie in our head. Mm-hmm. And these are what the parts need. And this is where we're going with this. Yeah. So it was a really cool process actually.
Now, not to take too much away from the music, but am I seeing this right? You've got like an exclusive beer that you're sort of initially coming out and pairing these songs with to a certain extent?
Absolutely. So we have, from the inception of kind of Believer, and then as we were rehearsing, there was a local brewery near us, and it's actually their 30th anniversary also. And we used to go there. That's kind of where we learned to kind of respect and drink good beer. Mm-hmm. They were some of the first on the whole East Coast to have like these microbrew fests, which are huge now. Yeah. These craft brewing festivals and stuff. And we became really good friends with the owners, and they're in their 60s and 70s now. Just great people that work there. We have band meetings there. We've been there a lot, and I approached Carol Stout, who was the first woman brewer in the United States, which is really cool. And we started talking. I said, what if we do a beer together? And I'm a big fan of Double Box, as is the rest of the band. Mm-hmm. And we said, let's get Roz, our artist, to kind of do the labels. We'll just really have fun with it. We'll come in, we'll help brew, which we did, and labeling and everything like that. And it was a lot of fun. So that's going to be released also March 17th. Nice. Just local, mainly kind of Pennsylvania, Maryland, kind of this area, and there's a lot of special stuff at the restaurant. We will probably have some of the merch online for people to buy, but it turned out it's amazing. Actually, we aged it in red wine barrels for the 12-ounce bottles, and then we also aged in port wine barrels for these 1-liter bottles that we have.
Interesting.
Yeah, turned out really well. So we made it a year ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's been in barrels since, yeah. And we just bottled it now.
Well, that's a believer fun fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Believer double back, man.
So it sounds like it's going to be available, but I mean, this is probably a limited edition run, I would say.
Yeah, this is a limited edition batch, and so we'll see if there's going to be more batches. We don't know, but it turned out really well. So we'll see how we'll get some feedback actually on the 18th at the brewery. We're going to actually be there and buy a pour, you keep the glass and things like that, the Believer double back glasses and things. And so I mean we're going to have fun with it, which should be pretty cool.
Well, this is all very exciting, and I'm glad that you've, sort of fired up that Believer mothership and you got it up and running there again, and it definitely looks like onward and upward, as it always is. Thanks,
Jack. I mean, we really appreciate your support, and when you reached out to us and stuff like that, I was like, oh yeah, no doubt, we got to do this interview with Jack.
It's that guy. Well, that's one of the only interviews.
He's awesome, man. It's great.
Even though it's like, a 4-year-old interview, like if you scroll through your Facebook page, it's one of the only ones you've posted in the last little while. So I thought I got to get in on this action. And I remember us having a really great rapport originally as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
As we continue to have.
It's been great. We so appreciative of your support. I mean, through the years, it's been fantastic.
Well, now let's just, do one more fun question, and I'll let you weigh in however you see fit. But did you guys inadvertently invent symphonic metal with Desiree?
I think that one book says we did. I don't know. I mean, like I said, Scott was my string teacher in high school, and we did that little intro on Extraction from Mortality, and that was kind of our first run at it. And then for Sanity, we started talking, and he's like, hey, my one sister, she's an opera singer. And we were like, I want to be weird if we did some string thing again, but this time we put some heavy stuff behind it, but then she was doing the vocals. Again, it was one of those things let's just do it. Let's have fun with it. Let's just push the envelope here again. Will people like it? Who knows? But whatever. Let's just do it. And I think we did it. And then we did more of it I think. It was interesting because when we put that on that record on Sanity Obscure, when we have the U2 one on that one also, and people really, the bizarre thing, people really gravitated to it. We wanted to do the Dimensions one where I was kind of singing with her, and do kind of parts as we did, and movements and things like that. Take it to the step further and then be done with it, so to speak. We felt like with Dia's Area, we went to one piece of it, and then we just kind of wanted to round that out and be done with it in Dimension. So whether we invented it, I have no idea. I think, would it have happened without us? Yes, I think so. Eventually, I mean, there's just so much there with classical music and string instruments, and that I think it would have eventually happened anyway.
Well, there's all those neoclassical, heavy metal guitar players like Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen being two of the more obvious ones. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, I'm those were my huge kind of metal influences and stuff like that. Eddie and Randy, and and Randy was a classical guitar player, and I took classical guitar because Randy took classical guitar, following kind of in their footsteps. And so, when I started playing cello in high school or whatever, and Scott was my teacher, he was fresh out of college, so we were probably only I think we're only 3 years difference in age or something, but that was just intriguing to me. And And I just wanted to, we just sat around and let's do this. Let's do something. And he was totally into it too, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Kurt, it's been awesome chatting with you, and I definitely hope to chat with you again in the near future as more new material from Believer trickles out. And it sounds like those first 2 tunes are actually probably going to drop on iTunes on the 17th, right? And then the actual release.
So I think what it'll be, I haven't gotten the dates when all of them are going to drop. I know that we will definitely, have, the downloads, everything like that, and all the links on the believerband.com website. So.
Okay,
yeah,
and then
that's the place to go.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, check out the website because it sounds like there's going to be some new swag coming out too.
Yes, absolutely.
Right on, man. Well, it's always a privilege and an honor chatting with you, my good sir.
I feel the same, my friend. Thank you so much again for your support. It's always great talking to you. And I hope we talk many times throughout this year.
I would definitely count on it. If you're up for it, so am I.
I'm definitely up for it.
All right, my brother. You have a good night. Thanks.
All right, you too. Thanks,
by.
buddy.
Okay, bye-bye.